to invite Dorothy up.
Okay. So I'm just making some notes right here.
Joining us from KidsAbility today, and I'm really excited. I was speaking to them 2 years ago about some of the things they were looking at to try how you can use technology, and I think you've got some things to show. Do you want some help bringing those things over?
Yeah, no, that's okay.
You're okay, you got it? Okay.
It's child's play, really.
All right. That was
I'll take that way because it actually makes bubbles.
sorry.
Sorry.
This one too?
No, I put the bubbles in.
Awesome.
Best seat in the house right here.
What's that? Okay, so how do I advance?
Oh, on the
Is it
left
just
button
here?
on
Okay.
the
Sorry, I put my notes on there, so
Oh, that's great.
I don't know if I'm actually. Anyway, I'll hold this and.
We could put the laptop down if you want.
Can I slide this over? Is that good?
Yeah.
Sorry,
No,
my
you're
5
good,
minutes
you're good.
counting.
We just won't give you as many points at the end.
Okay. That's okay.
I think that should be all right, yeah?
Yeah, I just.
And then just press here and you'll be good to go.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So, whoops.
Oh, that's
I'm
mine.
already mixing it up.
Forward.
There we go.
There you go.
So I'm with KidsAbility. I don't know how many of you have heard of KidsAbility in our community. I see some nods. That's awesome. And I think Maria and I need to talk afterwards. But we're celebrating our 60th anniversary this year, and our mission is to empower children and youth with a wide range of special needs to realize their potential. Whatever that potential actually is different for every kid and youth. Primarily the bulk of the people that we serve, and we served about 6,300 last year. We do speech and language therapy, autism therapy, occupational therapy, physiotherapy, and in addition to that, we run a lot of group programs and social skills, life skills, cooking skills, things like that. But we're publicly funded, and we serve all of Waterloo Region, Guelph, and Wellington, all the way up to Malfour, so it's a pretty large catchment area. These are our numbers of 6,300, just over 6,300 children and youth that we served last year, 53,000 visits, unique visits, about 700 volunteers. We're quite a substantial organization. We have a foundation that raises about close to $2 million every year for us, and that goes into direct service for our children and youth. We've got about 220 staff as well. Some of the various programs that we do, augmentative communication is kind of the main one that I wanted to touch on tonight, blind low vision. We work with kids with fetal alcohol syndrome. I mean, there's a wide range of diagnoses that kids come to our programs with. We also have a small school. It's a JK school that we have kids with particular special needs. They come for a half day at our school, and then they go out to the regular school to work on integration. So we've changed quite dramatically over the last 60 years. So the specific well, in our strategic plan, but I'll skip that. So our specific challenge that I wanted to come tonight with one specific thing, but I wanted to give you a little bit of a lay of the land. So we have a lot of kids that come into our system and use our augmentative devices, augmentative communication services. And these are, we have a number of apps that we use. We have a number of like eye gaze technology and things like that. The challenges that we face are that the technology doesn't move very well with the child or the youth. Like they could be in an enclosed environment like a classroom or a room like this with an eye gaze technology, and it's the only way that they can actually express themselves or communicate. But once they leave that space or go out, even sometimes to glare off a window or to move into a playground or outside of this environment, it doesn't work or it gets very glitchy. So we are really trying to struggle with finding ways that that technology can help our children and youth, and then moving on into the broad spectrum throughout people's lifespan of how technology can actually really help them with turning on devices. Like sometimes our kids sit in a classroom with this great eye gaze technology, but they can't turn it on independently. And if the teacher forgets to help them with that, they're sitting there unable to express themselves and unable to say, I want to interact, right? So that we need a way to change these switches. So the specific thing, so a couple things to keep in mind if you are interested in kind of working on these things is that we have people with really limited mobility very little range of motion sometimes. Sometimes it's just blinking eyes or very little pressure that they can use with their hands. And the switches, as I was saying, the switches that we have right now, they need some kind of a cue to be activated, whether it's a visual, an auditory, or a touch, because they sometimes can't do these things independently. The other kind of interesting challenge to think about is that approximately 30% of kids on the autism spectrum, which is a growing growth, it's like 1 in every 68 kids these days is some point on that spectrum, requires an augmentative communication device. So range of motion, strength, mobility are real challenges. Responsiveness to pressure and movement is a real challenge. The environment that this technology is supposed to work in is a real challenge for us. And special needs, the kids we work with, it's a very small population, but I think if you think about that over an entire lifespan, like what you can do today is not what you're going to be able to do in 50 years. So, you know, as people age, they lose mobility, they lose range of motion, I mean, and in actual fact, I think it's about 90% of anyone with a disability, it's acquired. Car crashes, a fall, things like that, and suddenly, you know, you loss of a limb or something like that. So I don't want you to think about KidsAbility and the things our kids need as this tiny area. It really can be extrapolated over a lifetime. So our specific challenge that we have right now is a client who uses a switch, an eye gaze, or we're looking for an eye gaze switch. Switches are these type of devices, and basically it just, it closes a connection. So a kid that one of our kiddos, where does this plug in? So this is a toy, but it requires, it's not turned on. Let me turn on the bubble maker. So a toy, like a child to make bubbles, you know, you can use the wand, right? Our kids can't do that, so they need a switch just to close that connection. And so some of our kids, we adapt these things so that, I don't know why the bubbles aren't coming. I didn't put enough stuff in it. So instead of a kid waving a wand, this is the switch that they're using to activate that. So there's different kinds of switches, some that are very, that apply a light touch, others that are for if you have really limited range of motion, like that, and very little pressure. But what we're really looking for, or what for a couple of clients we're really looking for, and we think there's some broader applicability, is a switch that can be activated with an eye gaze. So instead of having to touch, because we have some clients that they can't move their limbs, but they can control their eyes. But if you think about, you know, eye gaze technology, you know, like if my arms are loaded with bags of groceries or babies or, you know, whatever, you're carrying something, if you could have like an eye gaze technology switch like this that's been adapted to be on a door or to turn on a computer over time or whatever. I mean, I think there's lots of different places that can be applicable to turn things on, turn on light switches, activate a stove, whatever. That's the kind of switch that we're looking for, and one of the reasons that we're here tonight. So I know I'm over time, sorry, but the purpose of me being here partly is to talk about this one specific challenge, but also just to get you guys, to introduce you a little bit to KidsAbility and some of the things we have. I could go on and on, we've got lots of challenges, but to really, we're trying to reach out to people in the tech community and certainly beyond our sector to get you to think about some of the challenges that we have and some of the kids that we're working with and teens and youth. We'd love to, you know, kick some ideas around or potentially partner. So